What's up, everyone? Welcome back to What's Warhammer. I'm Gracier Rob, and today I want to talk to you about my all-time favorite race, the Skaven. The Skaven are absolutely the most interesting, funny, imaginative fantasy race ever created in modern time, or possibly of all time, if you think about it, because like most fantasy races were created sort of off of a lot of Celtic myth and that kind of thing. Whereas the Skaven, although I know there's like a little blurb in a Tolkien novel about Ratmen, they're really, I mean, come on. They are so original, you know? Just because someone mentioned Ratmen doesn't mean that, you know, we shouldn't give GW full credit back in the day for creating this amazingly hilarious race. And I know what you're thinking. Why? Who am I to talk about Skaven? Well, let me take you back to the early 90s. I was about 11, I think, when I started playing Warhammer. And there was, I went in and originally I really liked wood elves. I really liked bows. Back in the day, I've carved my own bows and that kind of thing, like tree men. But so I went in there. My friend took me and he's like, "Let's play this game together." I was like, "Oh yeah, this sounds amazing." And we went into a GW store in downtown Vancouver that no longer exists, off of Water Street. And we went in there and he said, "You can pick anything but wood elves because that's what I play." Naturally, right? Because we're kids, you think, well, okay, well, you can't play the same thing. Like, that's totally not cool. So, but he did me a huge favor because it really, it forced me to look around and sort of, actually examine each race. And I found the Skaven Battletome, and the rest was history. When I came back after not playing for a couple of decades, I came back to play Skaven, not to play Warhammer. That's how much I really like Skaven. I even have a Skaven wallet. Okay, it's actually a nice wallet. Actually, I'm not going to show you the inside because my credit cards are in there. I didn't think to take them out ahead of time, but yeah, I really love this race, and so I don't really have any actual credentials to talk about Skaven or anything like that. Other than that, just I love them a lot, and they're easily my favorite race. If I could only play one race of all time, it would hands down be Skaven. Easy choice. So I want to do a prediction slash wish list video for Skaven in 2019, and and just sort of talk about it. So here goes. My first prediction is that we're going to get a book, and I know everyone's already said this, but to my credit, I will not take a lot of credit for much of what I say ever because it's usually wrong. But I did say when Legions of Nagash came out, I did make a video. I don't know how to link it. I mean, I can link it in the description, which I'll try and do. But I did make a video saying that this book was huge for everyone because, especially like Skaven and other races who need it. I think that I said at the time, I think it means we're going to get some combined tomes, and it happened. And people said to me right away, like, I think you're jumping to conclusions. We can't say this off of one book. But I was just like, they made it for Death, and Death didn't need it like Skaven did. And people don't understand. If you don't play Skaven, you really don't know how whack they are right now. Like the way they're organized. I'm sorry, right now is stupid because you have 6 armies, one of which doesn't even have battle line right now. Master Clan does not have battle line. They exist as allies only. And until the last GHB, you couldn't even fit Thanquol in as an ally into a Skaven army. Like, what? Come on now. And, like there are some easy choices to make there that they could have just changed it. Like they didn't even, first of all, they didn't need a anyway, sorry. I'm going to stop now. But it really isn't good as it sits right now. If you want to play, a fun Skaven list, a traditional Skaven list, you have to take a Chaos army and just make the choice to play just Skaven. And that sucks. I mean, honestly, it's one of their most original creations that they've ever made. Only now in Age of Sigmar are we starting to see something as creative as Skaven, like with Deepkin, like underwater sea elves. What? That's crazy. Carriage overlords, like sky dwarves, like it's the opposite of what you think of as dwarves. And I mean, again, KO are not my thing, but I'm glad they exist. I think they look, great for other people. They add variety, and that being the spice of life, I think that they are awesome. But so going back to Skaven, my wish list is somewhat similar to my prediction list, but it's also not exactly the same. And hopefully people understand where I'm coming from with it. So prediction number 1 and wish list point number 1. I hope we just get a tome for now. And what I mean by that is I don't want to see a whole new line of models like the goblins just got, believe it or not, even though they're my favorite race, because I have a bunch of other stuff to paint, and that's just sort of a selfish wish that I have right now. I would like to see exactly what happened with Legions of Nagash. I would love to see a a combined book to make them playable, and I'll go in it. I'll say what I want in the book in a minute, but I would love to just see a combined book for now, and endless spells, war scroll cards, that kind of thing. And we're getting the Bombardier, so that's already set in stone. We're getting that in Carry On Empire. But I would love to just see, for now, the basics, like what Beastman got. And then, like they did with Legions of Nagash, down the road, get a like Night Haunt-esque expansion, either for Scryer or a new race. I mean, a lot of people didn't read it, I'm sure, but there was in the first Deepkin novella, excuse me, they make mention of a sky pirate Skaven army. They reference it. I forget what they were called. It was something like Scryer, but it sounded different. Anyway, so something like that. I would love, my favorite portion of the army is probably Eshin, maybe Scryer. I love them both. I really love Verminus. I love Mulder too. I don't think Mulder was ever properly explored though. I would love to see like an Island of Dr. Moreau Mulder, with like combining them with like bats and I don't know, bears, wolverines, snakes. I don't know, but surprise me. I think it would be rad. I think they probably would work better with mammals. I said snakes just for fun, but that's something I would love to see. A Frankensteinian Island of Dr. Moreau-esque Mulder release would be amazing. I mean, there's so many things you could do with that. Again, I'll stop now before I get too excited and make other people excited. Oh, can you imagine like a Wolfman Rat Ogre? Okay, I'll stop. So that's what I would like to see, because I would like to get my other stuff painted. I really like Deepkin. I'm trying to get them done. I was hoping that these guys were going to set them up all nice, but they're not really showing up in the video. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. I've got a bunch of other stuff to paint, and then if we get the tome, I can, catch up. That's my hope. It is selfish because, but if I would rather have new models than not ever get them, obviously. Like I would rather have a whole big, Goblin-esque release, like they got out of the blue, when they didn't really seem to need it, but they just got like a whole pile of stuff. And that's amazing. I will buy it 100%. I will buy it all of it pretty much. The only clan I'm not really into is Pestilence. So, and I've got nothing against Pestilence. No offense to any of you Pestilence players. Just not really into disease. I got sick when I was in my mid-20s, and that stuff ain't funny to me anymore, man. So that's the only thing I'm not into. But yeah, so that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that we see a combined tome. And with it, I would like to see some endless spells, which would be fun. I really just want to paint them mostly. I hope they're cool. I think like some of them are easy, low hanging fruit would be like Vermintide, like just a big rat pile, kind of like they have with the goblin, the spider one. But more hordish looking and hopefully a little more 3D, like a little more texture to it would be really cool. Something like maybe like the comet that Stormcast have, where they drop it down, maybe something like that, but it's like warp stone that comes up, like warp stone shards for an endless spell. I think that would be rad. I've got a bunch of ideas, so GW, write me. I've got the goods, man. Feel free to take any of my ideas and or consult me, because but speaking of which, Beastmen also got scenery, and that's the one thing that we're missing from Legions of Nagash, which I'm kind of surprised that they didn't do, considering they kind of had this template for it. But maybe the Legions of Nagash, like, because they went first, they too bad so sad, like kind of like the earlier books like Seraphon, they don't have a spell list in there. Maybe that's kind of why we don't have gravesite scenery pieces. So that's, so I'm hoping that we get some Skaven scenery. Excuse me. Would love to see some Skaven scenery. If it's something big, that would be awesome to paint. My idea for that, this is like a wish list this is like the first piece of wish list, I guess, pure wish list, is for scenery. I would like it to, paint wise, I would like it to be big, like the Goblin one, because that just looks like so much fun to paint. Gameplay wise, I do have Deepkin, and I don't have my boat right here, but they take up a lot of space on the table, and the other issue with the boat is that it's not super well balanced. If you put models on it, it tips over a lot of the time, and I have to weigh mine down. I need to get around to doing that, but I would like to ideally not have to do that. And that's not why I say that I don't wish for big scenery. The reason I don't wish for big scenery in terms of gameplay is because a lot of them have rules, like the FAQ for the Deepkin boats, as an example. You can't put it within 6 inches of an objective. You can't put it within 6 inches of another boat. You can't put it within 1 inch of another scenery. And most people who like to play with terrain, it's very limiting. And, when they're big like that, it makes it extra hard. So ideally, in terms of gameplay, I would like to see smaller pieces, maybe more of them. Maybe it comes with like 3 or 4. I think the obvious one that everyone went to is, if you played Total War 2, having clan rats tunnel up from the underworld, the Under Empire, as it were, is just the funnest thing in the world. So to be able to sprout these sort of like underground caverns, and it could look very 3D, where like they're sort of coming up out of the ground to spawn, that, or giant rats or whatever, would be really fun. I think that's the low hanging fruit, and I'm not saying don't do it. What's wrong with low hanging fruit? It's more convenient. That's why you pick the low hanging fruit, because it's right there. Nothing wrong with low-hanging fruit. Big fan of low-hanging fruit. In fact, I pick them up off the ground. Like, you don't even need them. You don't even need to pick it. It's like, oh, it's already fallen on the ground. It's clearly ripe. So yeah, I would love to see some of those. What do they call them? I forget what it's called. Attacking from below, or whatever they call it. That would be amazing. When they sprout, you could have D3 whatever mortal wounds or whatever, and then the ability to spawn clan rats wherever you want. The idea is that they're everywhere, right? Is that Skaven are everywhere. They've kind of taken that a step further in Age of Sigmar, and now they're not only just like under you constantly, they're everywhere in reality around you. They're like 4D rats, and it's just wild like what they're doing with them, and it's really fun. So I would love them to double down on that, and or triple down on that, as it were, I guess, at this point, and have it so they can kind of pop up anywhere. But if they do go with something really big, I've got an idea for that, GW, and I'm going to spoil it for everyone right now. I would love to see. I'm sorry, because all you Skaven players, you're going to want this as soon as I say it. not to oversell it. Clearly, I've already oversold it. A bell tower. Okay, if you know the lore of the Skaven, this stranger comes to this town, and they're trying to build this tower, and he's like, "I'll do it in I think he says 13 days or overnight." No, he says overnight. And so then he does it. They're like, "Yeah, sure, totally, and let's build this tower for us, please." Nothing fishy about you, hooded masked man. And then he builds it overnight, and then it's supposed to ring 12 times, and then it rings a 13th time, and everything cracks, and Skaven come up, and that's sort of the unofficial tale. And I've obviously paraphrased it a lot, but it's really fun. And can you imagine how cool this rickety Skaven bell tower would be? I mean, it would be freaking rad. I would love to see them go back. And this is kind of touching on what I'm hoping they do with the War Scrolls, but I think the Screaming Bell needs a real look at it. But unless they change it to this scenery piece, right? And what if we had like the old rules for the Screaming Bell, but in this bell tower, where you could just put it, on your side of the field, or hopefully somewhere else. Hopefully it can come up out of the ground. It would be even wilder. But imagine the old rules. Like, the old rules for the Screaming Bell were so much more flavorful as I remember them. I don't remember them in too much detail. I was playing in like 2nd edition when I was quite young. There was no Skaven plastic minis, by the way. And the reason I ever got a Screaming Bell was partially because I couldn't afford it, but also because they were like, yeah, you need like 200 slaves to go with this thing. And there were no plastic Skaven at the time. So it's like, okay, yeah, I can't afford to do that. So, too bad, so sad for me, for young Rob. And honestly, as I remember it back in the day, like in reality, it's just this like platform with wheels and this big bell, and it was this huge chunk of pewter or lead or whatever it was. But as in my mind, it was like the new Screaming Bell. It was super dynamic and amazing. You know what I mean? Like that's always the model I really wanted. So, sorry, I'm getting distracted by my memories here of and nostalgia. But I would love to see some of the old rules. Like, I don't remember exactly what they were, but I have some in my memory. It was like closest unit, boom, just like fries it. You know what I mean? Just does massive amounts of damage to it, or Skaven or otherwise. Or there was another one, I think it was something like the closest scenery gets destroyed by the Screaming Bell, and any model like within it or within an inch of it or whatever just dies or something like that, or dies on a 1. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I was just like, I just remember it being so dynamic, and very crazy and random. And that's what Skaven are. Like I always say, you got to lean into the random when you play Skaven. It's the most fun way to play it. And it's honestly, it's the best way to play it. So I would love to see this giant bell tower if we're getting something big. But gameplay wise, I would lean more towards the tunnels or something like that, where they come up from below. Something like that would be amazing. So I'm not really hoping for a lot of new models, just to reiterate. Just some scenery and stuff at first, and then get a whole new Skaven clan. But now on to sort of the meat of it, is the tome. I'm hoping, GW, they redo a lot of the War Scrolls. Not a lot of them. I shouldn't say a lot of them. Some of them. Some of them really need looking at. The drill is not the most needed one. I don't know why I brought it up first. It was the thing that, I guess because I'm thinking about stuff burrowing up from the underworld, but not underworld, under Empire. But yeah, I would like to see the drill get changed, because like right now it's like you're paying 80 points. Before it was 100 points, but now you're paying 80 points for them to possibly come up, and they're coming up at 9 inches away, so it's just like worse. Like you compare that with the Soul Scryer, who is a great model, and and I'm not saying that they should be able to stack like the Soul Scryer for Deepkin, but like he comes in at the table edge, but he adds 3 inches to your charge, so he's quite dynamic, and he brings 2 units with him, not just one. So yeah, I would like to see a change in that. The main one I would like to see is probably the Screaming Bell. I would like to see more power, more oomph to it. As it sits right now, I don't think I ever see it on the table except for in super fun games. I started disassembling mine so I can paint it better. I got my Screaming Bell when I just came back into the hobby. I bought it used. So it has some mold line issues and whatnot, and the side of the Screaming Bell, or sorry, not the side, like the side looks great. The sort of top parts of the wood, it doesn't have wood lines. It's just smooth and it doesn't look great. So I'm kind of going through with my hobby knife and trying to carve little wood things in there in my spare time. One of the things I'm doing in my spare time for hobby. So yeah, would love to see some new rules for that. I like the Vermin Lord summoning thing. It's very, if you read some of the old novels, it's very flavorful. Thankful tries to summon, I think, a Vermin Lord in one of the novels. Can't remember which one. It's either the first or the third one, and he gets like Scarbrand or something insane instead, because he screws up and stuff goes to what's the word? Goes into the warp, as it were. So yeah, so something like really more random, more aggressive, something that kills more enemy troops but also kills more Skaven, like something where you're just like, oh man, like most of the time it goes in my favor, but when it goes wrong, man, does it go wrong. Like when I roll, when I'm rolling for my warp sparks for Scryer, or when I'm doing more and more warp fire for my warp fire throwers or my rattling guns or whatever, I usually have at least one unit blow up, because and it's funny. It's more fun, anyway. So I would love to see that. Would love to see some other changes to some war scrolls, just to make them, like the Doom Wheel, for instance. The Doom Wheel is one of the, like, it's supposed to be one of the scariest things on the field. It's this random death thing that just kills stuff. Sometimes your guys, sometimes their guys. Total War, it's one of the, like, or it was, I don't know, I haven't played it since it came out because they haven't added any Skaven content. But so, but I would love to see something more dangerous, and more fun, like it is, or was in previous editions. Stuff like that. Most of it doesn't need a lot of work. I really like the way Storm Fiends work. They're really flavorful. The Warp Lightning Cannon, all that's jazz. Most of their models, frankly, are really, really great. I would like to see at some point an update to the Scryer models, because they're all pewter right now. Like, especially like Acolytes. Like, who can afford to play Acolytes? I've got 10 of them. And I could put them in a sock and kill someone with them. And they don't look fantastic. And the reason I bring up their weight is because transporting them isn't as easy. I've got a Magna now, so that makes it a lot easier. But before I made my own magnetic case, and I was using really strong magnets and making sure it's really close to the surface, but you still have to worry about them falling off, and they did a couple of times. And bouncing around in there, you can just destroy all your plastic models and chip all your metal ones. So would love to see some updated models at some point. Again, I'm not really hoping for it right away, though. here's a weird one. I'd really like to see some cool Skaven dice. They've been alternatively knocking it out of the park with their dice lately. GW, I'm talking about, and also coming up with like really bad dice design. Sorry, but it's true. Like the Beastman one, you can't read. The Daughters one, you can't read. God help you if you're trying to read the Eldar dice that came out a while ago. They're small. Like, anyway, I won't even get started. I actually don't mind the Deepkin dice. I like them because they're super flavorful. I know they're hard to read, though. I don't think they're the best design. I think they could have made them, instead of making them, what do you call it, with totally clear, like ice cubes, I think it would have been better to make them with a, what's it called, like a frosting on it. So still make them look like water, but like if they put a frosting on the outside and then a brighter paint on the where they're embossed, it would have gone, everyone would love them. The best dice I think I've seen is the orc dice for 40K that came out. Those things are rad. They look amazing. They look like little chunks of metal that have been scavenged together. I don't want something like the squig dice because I want to be able to roll my dice, but sorry. So that's a little wish list for the dice. I hope they're cool. I know like I'm too late for all of this probably, but I'm saying it ahead of time so I can point back at how wrong I was, because that's fun. Which I won't do for Legions of Nagash, my Legions of Nagash video. Just pointing that out again. I was maybe the first person to point out how big that book really was. So anyway, so getting back to it, for the book, obviously, we want all the regular stuff. We want spell lists. We want funky original allegiance abilities. But I hope they reorganize the clans as well. The Master Clan, like I said, I think I said earlier, doesn't have battle line. That's crazy. Why doesn't, how are you supposed to play that army as it sits right now? I know they're like, the easy solution, the low-hanging fruit, again, was to make Clan Rats battle line for everything like it was back in the day. Not back in the day per se, but like everyone had access to Clan Rats, even in like the lore of Skaven, slaves and Clan Rats. Everyone had them. So I really don't understand why they didn't keep that. It was just this super easy low-hanging fruit that they could have done. And they could have even just made it so like, okay, if you're Skaven allegiance or you're only Skaven or whatever, I don't know, basically Skaven allegiance, then you can have Clan Rats as battle line. Everyone gets that, including Master Clan, right? And then the other low-hanging fruit is like if you have like a Grey Seer or a Screaming Bell, which is also a Grey Seer, Grey Seer on top, as your if you have them as your general, then why not have access to Storm Vermin as an alternative source of battle line? They have, the Council of 13 had the guards, the albino, they call them albino. They weren't really albino. You're born albino, but the lore for the Storm Vermin that were the Council guards, as I remember it, was they start out as regular black Storm Vermin, black-furred Storm Vermin, and then the Council of 13 would show them something so horrific that it would turn their fur white. That is amazing, okay? that is the most flavorful, amazing thing. Almost the most flavorful, amazing thing I've ever heard. So I don't get why they didn't have them as battle line. Like even if they weren't just like Master Clan only battle line, like that would be amazing, right? So anyway, sorry, I'll stop with the complaining about what's currently going on, and I'll get back to what I hope is going to happen. I would like to see for the tome. I would like to see Beasts of Chaos style allegiance abilities. So like the Scryer guys get this, and the Verminous guys get this, and the Eshin guys get that. Like Beasts of Chaos. I think it's a really, really great way of doing it, and it works really well for Skaven. It's like this. It's not like this is an army-wide cohesive ability. It's like these guys are good at this thing, and those guys are good at that thing, and it's super flavorful. Skaven have always worked together, not very well, but they've always been together, even in the novels. Like, you know, Thankful goes with a Clan Eshin army, and they've got clan rats, and they've got rat ogres. They've got Clan Eshin rat ogres in that, which is another amazing model I would love to see. They would be armed with weapons, you know, they would be like a slightly upgraded version. If they do redo the rat ogres, which they need to, frankly, you know, like I'm not saying, like, again, like, this is not what I'm hoping for to happen right away, but if they do redo the rat ogres, I would love to see variants. I would like to see them bigger, like the size of the smaller trolls in for Trogoth or whatever they're called, for the Goblin army that they've got coming out right now. I would like to see them at least that bit, as big as the smaller one, not as big as the hero guy, but as the smaller version. I would love to see rat ogres like that size with the same flavor and attention to detail that they put into them. You know, give them, like, if you want to Eshinize them, give them like these big swords, you know, maybe curved, like what's the word, rudimentary katana like swords. Like, come on, man, it's not that hard, right? So I also wrote like a what's it called, a short story for the short story contest, and I added my idea in my short story of having a new kind of assassin, and they have a new weapon, and maybe I won't give that away because it's in my novella, and I don't want to give them, or it's in my short story, and I don't want to give the Black Library any reason not to pick my story. But yeah, so going back to, you know, if they do come out with some rat ogres, would love to see that. What else was I hoping for the book? I'm trying to think. For the book, other than redoing the scrolls, and what was the other thing I was thinking about? I think I'm blanking right now. But yeah, I mean, reorganizing the clans is one of the most important things. They're not cohesive. It's not really fun to play them right now, because you have no access to, you know, like if you want to play General Skaven, first of all, your Chaos Allegiance, and that's rough. But, you know, a book would fix that, obviously, as long as it's a combined tome. I would be okay with the Clan Scryer, like a Clan Scryer book, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. And the reason why is because the models. So if it's a Clan Scryer release, they're going to have to release a bunch of new models, or I just don't see it happening otherwise. Like, half that line is pewter, and there's like one Finecast model in there. So I don't see that happening. Not that they don't need a revamp. I mean, Jezzail are horribly expensive, and they're not even good. Like, their war scroll is not good. I'll just say it like that. It's not good. Hopefully, if they redo their war scroll, hopefully they can not suffer from the -1 to hit heroes, because they're sniper rifles. Okay, they're sniper rifles that blow up in your face, and they kill things well. Like, that's Jezzail, man. Okay. Need to get it right, man. But yeah, like most of Scryer needs to be redone. Everything but Storm Fiends, the Warp Lightning Cannon. I thought there was something else. No, because like the Island of Blood stuff, you can't get in. You can only get an Island of Blood. So even the stuff that's plastic, like the Poison Wind Mortar, the Warp Fire Thrower, is that it? It's in there? Yeah, I guess it is, because the Warp Grinder's metal, the Rattling Gun's metal, Jezzail are metal, Arch Warlock's metal. The Warlock Engineer only comes in the Island of Blood. I think there's more. I think I said Rattling Gun already. I mean, yeah, they're all metal. And the the Doom Wheel is plastic. Of course, it's coming out in the Carrion Empire. I should have. Stupid, Rob. Stupid. But you know, most of it is not. That's the point. I'm missing one that I can't come up with. I think I already said Acolytes. So there's a lot to Scryer, and they're a really nicely expanded clan. But as it sits right now, I don't see us just getting a tome for them, because we don't have the models for them that GW likes to sell. They like to sell plastic. They don't like to sell these old pewter models. So, and yeah, I would like to see a revamp for them. Of course, they need it desperately. But I'm thinking it's going to be a tome for now, a combined tome like Legions of Nagash, and then hopefully we'll see something like that. Here's another like perhaps final prediction. Okay. This Skaven release is a tome. Are you ready? Y'all ready for this? And then it's not a traditional release. It is a Warhammer Quest Skaven. So you hit it. You heard it here first. Maybe, I don't know. Someone probably came up with this idea. It actually seems like it almost seems like low-hanging fruit. I don't think I've heard it anywhere else before, but when they came out with Silver Tower, I love Silver Tower, by the way, and there are 2 Skaven models in there. They're one unit, but they're they are 2 little Skaven dudes, Eshen's models. Not my favorite, to be honest. They're kind of like gladiatorial looking Skaven, and so I would like to see more ninja, stealthy looking guys. But that was sort of like a Zeech tower. You had the Ogren Thermitage, or however you pronounce that, in there. You had blue horrors and stuff like that, and you had a couple other things like goblins, but it was kind of like a Zeech. It was almost a Zeech release. The sorcerer, the Gaunt Summer, I think he's called, in there. So I would love to see something like that for Skaven. I would buy at least 1 copy of that. Bare minimum 1 copy, depending on how good the models are. And then I might have to buy a second one. I'm sorry to my wife in advance. But yeah, that's all I can think of off the top of my head. And I guess a lot of it wasn't really off the top of my head because I have been thinking about it a lot over the last couple of years, since my want of I've been hoping for a release long before now. They came out with a Stormcast Eternal book, right? Some of you might know where this is going, and then they came out with a second one when the Vanguard Chamber got opened up, or however you say that. And so I was like, okay, well, fair enough. It's their what's the word? Their flagship army. Of course they're gonna, they had like releasing a whole other chamber, whatever. They came out with another book. No big deal. Who cares? Like, it's great for the people who like them. I'm sure it's printing money, so that's fantastic. But I was like, but surely there will be a Skaven book before we get a third Stormcast Eternal book. No, I was wrong for that. There was literally like we were getting them 1 a year. So I hope there's a Skaven book before we get another Stormcast Eternal book, but knock on wood, because who knows at this point. Why would I assume? Crazy me to think, right? But and I do realize I'm not knocking it. It's a business. If I could print money, I would sure as heck do it. As long as I was doing it legally, I would print money. Wouldn't you? So yeah, I don't blame him for doing that. But there is a danger in oversaturation. It's like zombie movies and superhero movies. When you oversaturate, or when you get to that level of saturation, there is a danger where you're not just giving people stuff that they really want. You're giving them enough stuff that they don't need to buy everything. Like if you release a Skaven release, or like I feel like we saw with Nighthaunt and Goblins, they got this big cohesive release, and all those people that love those armies, and there are a lot of them out there, and there are a lot of them out there for Skaven. As much as I wish I was a super unique person, a lot of other people see how great they are of a race, how funny they are, So the thing is if they saturate Stormcast Eternals to a certain extent and keep coming up with books, keep coming up with models. There are diehard fans. I've got another friend named Rob who is the most diehard Stormcast Eternal fan, true blue fan of Stormcast Eternals that I've ever met. And he will probably buy everything they ever come out with Stormcast Eternals. But he is in the minority. And, you know, there might not be a point where they could oversaturate that he won't be like, oh, yeah, heck yeah, sign me up, right? But I don't think that's the case for most people. And I could be wrong, because they keep coming out with Space Marine lieutenants and people keep buying them. So I don't know. But having said that, Space Marines are developed to a point that you know, they've got a lot more lore behind them. And sorry, this is getting into like a Stormcast Eternal, like why you shouldn't oversaturate the market. So I'll stop there. But I don't think it's a good business decision for them to oversaturate. I don't think they've gotten to that point yet, because they're selling them like gangbusters, and they're the most popular army at, you know, events, at tournaments, everywhere, because, you know, people who are old school like them, and people who are new to the game like them. They're very popular. So I don't, as it sits right now, I think it's fine, but there is a danger. It was all I was trying to say. And you know, I think we're seeing, you know, I think that the GW was like, oh, goblins, orcs, and 40k, and like, you know, they're not our super original IP and blah 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 blah, but they're popular, you know. And when Skaven come out, I think we'll see the same thing happen. I think Skaven, I think whatever they release, and hopefully it is good, but even if it's not great, like I'll probably buy it because I like Skaven so much. Like, you know, probably shouldn't tell GW this, but you know, I mean, they've been knocking out of the park for so long, not really worried. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed my rambling thoughts without any kind of, you know, rhyme or reason to them. Apparently, I'm, you know, I enjoyed talking about it. I wanted to put this out. Apparently, we might be getting an announcement this Friday or Saturday, so I'm hoping that happens, and I wanted to get my thoughts out. So like when Legions of Nagash came out and I made a video about that, I could point back to it and say, hey, I did say that one thing one time that was almost sort of intelligent, because I think about this a lot because I like Skaven so much. So blessings of the Horned Rat, and hopefully I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching.